Hello viewers, thank you for joining me. This video is going to be more along the lines of the mini reviews and discussions, just a place to try and organize my jumble of thoughts now that I've finished Season 2. There will be spoilers, for the same reason that I almost didn't watch Season 2. These last 9 episodes cover the only story arc that's really left, some sort of conclusion to the romance. And I guess my initial reaction to that was that it was just kind of unnecessary. Season 1, and especially those 3 OVA episodes they tacked on to the end, already establish not only the love triangle, but also make its conclusion pretty clear. Haruo never really had a mind for romance, but if he was going to fall in love with one of the girls, things were definitely leaning towards Ono. I just wasn't sure I wanted to see that come to fruition, because I did like all 3 main characters, but I definitely have a soft spot in particular for Hidaka. I dreaded seeing the love story dragged out any longer and the fallout from her losing to Ono again, because she does, and it is pretty rough. As she feels Haruo slipping away, Hidaka just gets more desperate, throwing herself at him more aggressively. It just hurt to watch her like that, and I've been going around in circles in my head, trying to nail down my opinions on the romance in this series, because I don't hate how it ended. Ono was an endearing character to me too. What might make me want to lean into the other ship is that Hidaka's a better written character. I feel like the writers put more effort into her, whereas Ono doesn't really grow at all, even towards the end. Hidaka focuses a lot on her feelings for Haruo, but there is more to her than her crush. What we do see more prominently in Season 2 is that she's found her own identity as a gamer. When she does compete with Ono, she wants to win for her own personal pride as much as for some sort of leverage in the fight for Haruo. She has a really great scene, right before that final battle, where she's staring herself down in the bathroom mirror, reflecting on how, before she met Haruo and was introduced to this world, she used to have no hobbies and no real friends. She was just this lonely wisp of a person who did nothing but study. Now she's found the confidence to fight for something she cares about, and I loved that she's used gaming as a way to connect with people. That's something that Ono, and even Haruo, never quite managed to do. At best, they've got rivals around the arcade scene, but the only people they really bond with through gaming is each other. And Hidaka, but from the start, she was an awkward sort of not quite attached third wheel to their relationship. This does give their pairing a sort of meant-to-be feel to it, but I can't ignore that it stems from a character flaw. I mentioned in my review for Season 1 that I was disappointed that Ono doesn't really grow at all over the years. Unfortunately, that holds true for this last arc, too. Never once do we see her stand up for herself. Any freedom she gains from her oppressive living conditions was fought for by someone else, Haruo or her driver or her older sister. It's one of those things that just gets more frustrating the more I think about it, because all these rules and extra lessons are set up with the intention of crafting her into someone worthy of the Ono family name. We're never told what the Ono family business is, but you know what's really important for success in any business? Communication. Without even going into how Ono doesn't speak, in their effort to get her to put up with these rules, because her older sister didn't, they've just completely beaten down her confidence. As far as I can see, all this training has prepared her for is a life of bending to the wills of the family's business partners, which can't be what they're aiming for. But on a smaller level, I would have liked to see Ono use gaming as a way to connect with other kids her age, too. Anytime the topic comes up around her classmates, it just puts even more distance between Ono and everyone else. I guess the real bitter irony for me here is that Hidaka feels like the kind of person Ono should aspire to be. At various points in the series, I wanted better for both girls. Haruo got a really nice moment, at least, where he thanks Ono for forcing him to finally make an effort to understand the feelings of the people around him. That was a really sweet sentiment. The ending is really sweet all around, actually, even if my complaints for Ono still stand. I'll admit that the first 4 or 5 episodes didn't do much to convince me that the rest of the tale was something we really needed to see brought to life. But then the last few episodes suddenly got really good. The final scene is emotional, and I got into it by that point, but at first it was just the music and animation, which were really fantastic by the end. It's kind of rare for the technical elements to really grab my attention and keep me invested if the story's a little lackluster, but it did here. Like, while I was cringing away from Hidaka throwing herself at Haruo and begging him to at least give it a chance, in the back of my mind I could also appreciate, but you know what? That sequence looked really good. More than a handful of times, there were scenes where I wasn't super drawn in by the drama going on in that particular moment, but the music playing underneath it was so energetic that it made me sit up and pay closer attention. And I can't complain about that. It's never a bad thing when it feels like the creators genuinely cared about the thing they were bringing to life. And, on a last note, this experience made me appreciate the first season a little more. It's not often these days that I take the time to go back and rewatch an anime I've completed, not unless I really enjoyed it the first time around. But that's what I did to get myself in the right mindset to finally watch Season 2. My lasting impression of the first season had been that it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It was really colored by the things that had disappointed me overall about the characters. But as I was rewatching it, I found that it wasn't hard to not linger on those things. It was just a good time, relaxing and lighthearted. And I don't watch a ton of shows that can be described that way. There isn't a drastic tone shift or clear cutoff point between Season 1, the OVAs, and Season 2, so to any new viewer it should be easy to just flow through the whole 24 episodes. Binge-watching is kind of Netflix's thing, and this show feels particularly well suited to that. That's my takeaway at the end of this. It may not have been perfect, but it was a good time. I have no regrets about deciding to watch it, and would have no second thoughts about recommending it to someone else. Thank you for watching.